Hey everyone, Jake here for American Muscle, and in this video we're taking a look at these LED taillights with black housings and smoked lenses fitting 2016 to 2018 Camaros. These taillights are going to appeal to the Camaro owner who's on the hunt for cooler, stealthier looks, better lighting output, and a clean style for a good price. Featuring full LED illumination and some clean, slick style, these are going to make a great addition to any Camaro, and they'll do it without forcing you to spend a ton of money. The taillights on the Camaro are arguably one of the most iconic parts of that car, but as Chevy strayed away from the more classic shapes after the 2014 refresh, the car's got some less exciting taillights. So if you're looking to bring a clean, modern style to your Camaro, these might just do it for you. Overall, the design is very simple and again, clean. It's the best word I can think of to describe it. However, I think it's pretty impactful. The two main running lights are these two L-shaped LED units right here. The brake lights are going to be taken care of by more LEDs inset in the center, and yet again more LEDs up top. This time in amber are your turn signals. Now those turn signals are sequential, which I just think adds a whole other level of cool. And of course you get your white LED reverse lights hidden away right here along the inner edges. All of the lighting elements are pretty thin and they're just really slick looking. It makes for a very sinister appearance, helped along of course by the black inner housings and the smoked lenses over top. So when they're off like you see them here on the table, everything appears just plain dark gray or even black. But the lighting elements are bright enough here to cut through that tint on the lens and make sure that your car is still going to be easily seen by other drivers. Now construction here is your standard ABS plastic for the housings with polycarbonate lenses over top. Again, pretty much the industry standard. So these are rather solid, they're lightweight, and they should be able to stand up to whatever you can throw at them. Now they're also DOT and SAE approved, meaning that they are indeed fully street legal. Now as they come out of the box, they're pretty much ready to go too, meaning you don't have to do a ton of work to get these installed, but we'll talk more about that in the install section in a moment. Pricing comes in at about $400, which makes these one of the least expensive options out there for this year range of Camaro. Now while you could spend more, these do everything you need them to, and the style here is just really darn slick. I'm a big fan of how they look, and I think that makes them a great addition to any build, and it's not going to break your budget if you do decide to buy them. More good news when it comes to installation. We're going to give these a 1 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and the job should only take you about 45 minutes to complete. Now, like I mentioned a few moments ago, these are designed to be pretty much a plug and play installation. You've got your pigtails here ready to go. There is one wire that you're going to need to run up to your third brake light, but everything is done for you. You're just going to use these connectors right here and plug the other end into the third brake light itself. So everything should go together nice and smooth. Not much more I can say about it here in the studio, so with that, let's head out to the shop and we'll walk you through the process.
For this install, you need a ratchet, 8mm socket, clip removal tool, pair of diagonal cutters, and a pick tool. All right, today we're gonna be installing some taillights on our Camaro. First, we're gonna watch a quick video how to uninstall the stock ones, and we're gonna come back here to install the new ones.
So our first step is going to be to remove these plastic trim panels on the top of the taillights. Now we have 3 push clips here. Now I'm going to get a clip remover tool to remove. So next we can come into the trunk right behind our taillight, and we have 1 tree clip that we'll have to remove. So I'll grab a clip remover tool and pop that out. Now we can pull back on our trunk liner, which will expose our nuts. We have 2 right up front here, and then there's 1 that's tucked back here in the corner. So now we can grab an 8mm socket to remove our first 2 nuts. Now our last one's going to be tucked behind this bracket. It's a little hard to see. It's going to be that same 8mm socket. So now we're just going to grab the taillight with even pressure and pull straight back, but don't pull too hard because we still have our wiring harness to disconnect. Then we can push up on the red tab and then press the black tab to disconnect it. And now once we have our first taillight removed, we can do that same procedure on the other side.
All right, before we can install our new taillights, we just have to run a wire from our third brake light to each of our taillights. So we have to take this panel off and then unplug our third brake light, plug our harness in. So we're gonna take our clip removal tool and we're gonna take off all of our clips going around and also just pop off this trim piece, but just pop off with this. All right, now that we got that off, we can just fold the trunk down a little bit. You can reach up in the access hole and kind of just wiggle the third brake light out. So we can unplug it from right here. All right, we're just gonna grab a pick tool and just push down this clip and unplug it. All right, now we're going to feed our wire from underneath. You'll see two ends, one that plugs into the connector and then one that will plug into the third brake light. So you can plug them in now. Then we can just push our third brake light back into place. All right, now we just need to run each wire to each tail light. So the passenger one we can just run with the harness. The driver's side one, we can run behind the cover, probably zip tie to here. You'll see a little bit of wire coming out, just like it is over here. All right, you will see a body plug right here on either side. You just pull it out by hand. We're just gonna take our wire and just run it behind our carpet that we already have pulled down and pop it through either side. I just wanna see how much slack we have before we start securing the wire up. All right, take a pair of diagonal cutters, just cut off the excess. Remember, you can run this however you want, clean up however you want. This will get covered by the panel though. All right, now we're just gonna take our panel and all of our push clips and reinstall it. All right, now we can install our tail lights. All right, now we can install our tail light. We're gonna start with plugging our two harnesses in. So we have our main harness, secure the locking tab, and then our harness that we ran just plugs in. You can feed the extra through the hole. All right, now we can put our tail light into place, just making sure to line up with the three tabs on the bottom right here. All right, now we can go back on the inside and install our three 8mm nuts we took off. All right, now we're gonna reinstall our three nuts. We got our two here, and then our one that's really hard to see on the inside. All right, we'll grab our ratchet and 8mm socket and tighten them down. All right, we can put our carpet back into place and then reinstall our trim piece. All right, then we just have our three push clips on top of our trim piece. All right, then we just have our trim piece I forgot to put on over our latch. Then we can close our trunk lid.
That's going to wrap it up here for our review and install of the LED taillights with black housings and smoked lenses fitting 2016 to 2018 Camaros. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, for all things Camaro, be sure to keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.